Breaking news. Hi, I'm Karen Vance bringing you a top story tonight. We have just learned about an amazing new teaching method that is sweeping the nation, team-based learning, or as some call it, TBL. This new methodology can be used in most classrooms today, and research is showing that it greatly improves student achievement. Please be advised that teachers should take each student into consideration when grouping, because groups are permanent. We have some of our top reporters covering the case. We go now to you, Tom.
Thanks, Karen. Hello folks, I'm Tom Walters, and tonight I'm here interviewing Mrs. Wanda Rivers, a teacher here at Bellevue High School. She tells me that she has been using this wonderful method of teaching for a while now and has some insider tips and information on team-based learning. Mrs. Rivers, is it true that TBL is another form of a flipped classroom?
Hi, Tom. Yes, team-based learning is another form of a flipped classroom. Students do some pre-class preparations, such as reading or watching videos to inform them about the topics being covered in the course module. Then once they get to class, they are given a test both independently, as well as within their groups, called readiness assurance tests, to show that they know and are familiar with the material. After the IRAT and GRAT tests, the students have the option to appeal any answers they feel they should receive credit for but were marked as incorrect.
Wow! It sounds like you could free up a lot of in-class time by having students be prepared beforehand. What comes after the student appeals?
I'm glad you asked, Tom. Next comes the best part, student application. Each group of students work to solve the same problem. The problem varies from class to class based on the course content, but the application should focus on a significant problem. The students should make specific choices to solve the problem at hand. Each group should be able to explain their reasoning and thinking in regards to their solution.
All right, so all the groups work on the same problem? That is interesting. What can you tell me about the groups, Mrs. Rivers? How many students are typically in the groups, and how do you decide which students to pair together?
Oh yes, the groups. So the group size can vary depending on class size, but typically groups contain 5 to 7 students each. Grouping students is one of the biggest disadvantages of team-based learning. The groupings require careful consideration because they are permanent. I have to take different student abilities as well as who I think will work well with who into consideration when forming groups. Students must be grouped so that they will get work done without too much socializing. Ultimately, students are responsible for their own efforts.
I think it's great that the students have so much control of their own learning, but how do you keep them accountable? What if, kids being kids, some members of a group aren't participating fully with the rest of the group members? Is there a way to hold those students accountable?
Great question, Tom. Of course, we do have some students who aren't being as productive as we would like from time to time, but for the most part, students are self-motivated to be an active part of their group. We use anonymous peer evaluations to help keep students in check throughout the application activity. Being told to straighten up by your teacher isn't always effective, but when it comes from your classmate, it tends to have a different effect on students.
Okay, Mrs. Rivers, one last question before we go back to Karen in the studio. What role do you play as the teacher in a team-based learning environment? It seems as if the students almost teach themselves.
Yes, the students to take on a different role in a TBL classroom than they would in a traditional classroom setting. My role is one that is more of a guide for learning. I assign groups, prepare the readings and videos that students will need to use. I administer the individual readiness assurance tests and the group readiness assurance tests, and I establish the learning goals for the students. The most important thing that I do as their teacher is the mini lecture at the end of the module that covers anything that the students still weren't fully grasping after their application activity.
Wow! That was great information, Mrs. Rivers. Thank you for answering our burning questions and keep up the great work. Now back to you, Karen.
Thank you, Tom. Wow, what great information on team-based learning. We still have one more interview with a student from Mrs. Rivers' class. Mason wants to tell us about his role as student in a TBL classroom and how he feels this type of learning has affected him. Mason.
Hi, thanks for having me. I really like Mrs. Rivers' class. She uses the team-based learning approach in her class and it's unlike any other class I've taken. All of us students are super engaged because we aren't sitting and listening to a lecture. Instead we are using what we have learned to form relevant questions and answers to solve a real problem. The TBL environment makes everyone strive to get the right answers because that is the only way we will solve the overall problem for the module. We get to work in groups and divide the work. Everyone participates because they know their friends are depending on them.
Thank you for the great insight, Mason. So it looks like the method is great for students and teachers alike. Students learn great skills they can use outside of school, like how to work collaboratively and how to think interdependently. Looking at the research, we can see that students do achieve higher gains when using this method of teaching rather than traditional methods. That is all for our breaking news segment. Now back to your regularly scheduled programming.